There are Jewish families that have traversed 2,000 years of persecutions, exiles, wars, and never lost their fortune. You know the Rothschilds. But the true masters of invisible wealth, you've never heard of. And that's exactly the proof it worked. Today, I'm going to reveal the 9 hidden laws that rabbis taught only to their firstborn sons. Laws so dangerous they were banned from public Talmud discourse. Because when you understand how Jews build wealth in absolute silence, you realize noise was never power. It was weakness. The fool announces his fortune. The wise man multiplies in secret. I am Rabbi Joseph Oliver, and if you're watching this, it's already too late to remain ignorant. In 1290, King Edward I expelled all Jews from England. They had 3 months to sell everything and leave. 3 months to liquidate centuries of accumulated wealth, businesses, properties, relationships. Most Christians expected to see them miserable, defeated, begging at the borders. But something impossible happened. In less than a generation, these same families were financing entire kingdoms in France, Italy, and the Netherlands. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They became indispensable to the very system that expelled them. How? It wasn't luck. It wasn't genetics. It wasn't some mystical Jewish magic. It was a code, a system of 9 laws that transformed exile into opportunity and silence into fortress. Laws that were whispered from father to son in candlelit rooms, never written down, never spoken in public. Laws that worked precisely because nobody knew they existed. The Talmud teaches something that Machiavelli would take 1,000 years to understand. Envy destroys faster than poverty. When you show your fortune, you don't invite respect, you invite destruction. Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, teaches, who guards silence about his wealth, guards his life. This isn't poetic wisdom. This is survival strategy encoded in religious text. Because when you're a minority living among majorities, when your success breeds resentment, when kings can decide overnight that everything you own now belongs to them, you learn one thing fast. Visibility equals vulnerability. The rabbis knew this. They encoded it, they taught it. And the families that listened survived. The families that didn't vanished from history. The first law is the most counterintuitive for the modern mind. Law number 1, live as if you earn half of what you really earn. In the 18th century, the Warburg family controlled banks in 7 countries. They were moving capital across borders before most people understood what capital was. They financed wars, revolutions, the industrial transformation of Europe. But if you visited their homes, you'd see simple furniture, common clothes, no ostentation. Their children wore the same quality clothes as middle-class merchant families. Their carriages were functional, not ornate. Why? Because every dollar spent on appearance is a dollar stolen from your invisible army of capital. The Medicis learned this the hard way. Early generations flaunted wealth with palaces and patronage. Later generations learned, dress like common merchants while financing popes and emperors. The Talmud states in Pirkei Avot, there is no rich like the one who is content with his portion. But this goes deeper than contentment. It's about strategic invisibility. When you receive a raise, resist the upgrade. Does your current car still work? Keep it. Does your current home still serve? Stay. I know what you're thinking. What's the point of earning more if I can't enjoy it? But you're missing the game. Every time you upgrade your lifestyle, you announce to the world, I have more money now. And envy doesn't sleep. It awakens neighbors who start asking for loans, family members who suddenly remember they need help, governments that raise your taxes, thieves who mark your house. The wise Jew lets everyone think he's still struggling while his portfolio multiplies in silence. He drives a 10-year-old Honda while owning 17 rental properties. He wears a $30 watch, while his index funds compound at 8% annually. He appears ordinary while operating extraordinary. This is law number 1. And if you implement only this, you're already ahead of 98% of humanity. But living below your means isn't enough. You need to go deeper. Law number 2. Never reveal how much you truly possess. Not even to family. This sounds harsh. This sounds paranoid. but there are 3,000 years of wisdom behind it. In the Talmud, there's a story. Two brothers inherited a fortune. Same parents, same education, same starting point. One shouted to everyone. He bought the biggest house in town. He threw lavish parties. He told relatives exact numbers during Sabbath dinners. He felt proud, generous, successful. The other kept silence. He lived modestly. When people asked how he was doing, he said, "Fine, getting by, thank God for small blessings." 5 years later, the first was bankrupt. Beggars appeared daily at his door. Distant cousins remembered they were family. Business partners proposed ventures that were really just traps. His children became entitled. His wife's spending spiraled because she felt they were now rich people. All of it drained his wealth like invisible vampires. The second brother, he multiplied his inheritance tenfold. Nobody knew he had money, so nobody asked. Nobody envied. Nobody sabotaged. Nobody felt entitled to his resources. The Talmud teaches, the secret is like an ember. Guarding it burns, revealing it destroys. Warren Buffett, who studied Jewish principles of investment, lives in the same house since 1958. He drives his own car. He eats breakfast at McDonald's. Most people see him and think, nice old man, probably doing okay. They have no idea he controls $150 billion. Most people think he's just frugal. No, he understood law number 2. True wealth lives in the shadows. This means, don't post about promotions. Don't show investments. Don't reveal how much you made. When relatives ask how much you earn, smile and say, enough to get by, thank God. When friends ask about your investments, say, oh, I'm learning, nothing special. Because when you show, you transfer power to whoever sees. And transferred power never returns. The moment someone knows exactly how much you have, they start calculating what percentage they deserve. And now, the law that separates amateurs from masters. Law number 3. Cultivate the art of appearing ordinary while you operate in the extraordinary. There's a phrase in the Zohar, the most powerful light is the one that hides itself, or Haganuz, the hidden light. The Kabbalists teach that before creation, God's infinite light filled everything. But infinite light leaves no room for anything else to exist. So God contracted, withdrew, concealed the light. And in that concealment, space opened for the universe to emerge. This is the spiritual principle behind invisible wealth. The greatest power operates in concealment. This means in the bank line, you're equal to everyone. You don't cut the line. You don't demand special treatment. In the supermarket, you buy the same brands. You use coupons if it makes sense. On the street, nobody looks twice. But behind the scenes, you're building an empire that will traverse generations. In 1492, when Jews were expelled from Spain, many converted and remained, the crypto-Jews. Externally Catholic, they attended Mass. They baptized their children, they ate pork in public. But internally, they continued practicing in secret. Friday nights, they lit candles in hidden rooms. They passed down prayers in whispers. They maintained identity while wearing the mask of conformity. Centuries later, their families controlled transatlantic trade between Spain and the New World. Why? Because they mastered the art of strategic invisibility. They understood. Survival isn't about fighting the system. It's about becoming invisible within it until you control it from the inside. At work, dress normal. Not too shabby, not too sharp. Blend into the middle. In traffic, drive a reliable but anonymous car. Toyota, Honda, something that says, I'm responsible but not wealthy. At social events, listen more than you speak. Ask questions. Let others brag. Because the man who appears dangerous never is. He's compensating for weakness. The truly dangerous appears harmless until it's too late to react. Now that you understand the art of invisibility, we reach the second layer, movement. Because stagnant money is like a soldier sleeping on the battlefield. It doesn't protect you, it exposes you. The Talmud teaches, don't be like the fool who guards bread until it molds. Be like the wise man who transforms wheat into 1,000 loaves. Law number 4, money must flow constantly from decay to growth. There's a concept in Judaism called miyim chayim, living water. Water that moves, heals. Rivers bring life. Irrigation transforms deserts into gardens. But stagnant water, it breeds mosquitoes, disease, death. The same applies to money. Medieval Jews understood this better than anyone. While European peasants hid coins under mattresses, afraid to risk, afraid to move, Jewish merchants sent ships to Constantinople, Alexandria, India. It was terrifying. Half the ships sank in storms. Pirates captured others. Some crews mutinied. But those that returned brought spices, silk, gold, returns of 1,000%. One successful ship paid for 10 lost ones. This is what we today call a diversified portfolio. But they practiced this 1,500 years ago. Not with modern financial theory, but with Talmudic wisdom. Spread your risk. Keep your capital moving. Never let it sleep. Every dollar that enters your account must have a destination within 48 hours. Don't leave it stagnant. Either it goes to investment or to skill development, or to asset acquisition. Because inflation is the invisible thief that works 24/7. And if you don't move your money faster than inflation, you're being robbed in silence. Right now, as I speak, your savings account is losing value. The government prints money. Your purchasing power shrinks. The only defense is movement. Buy index funds. Buy real estate. Buy skills that increase your earning capacity. But never ever let money sit idle thinking you're being safe. Idle money isn't safe. It's dying slowly. But moving money isn't enough if you only have one source. Law number 5. Build at minimum 7 sources of income. Like Joseph in Egypt. There's a reason the Torah emphasizes the 7 years of abundance and 7 of scarcity. It's not just a nice story. It's a code. Diversification isn't optional. It's a commandment. Joseph didn't store all the grain in one cellar in one city. He spread it across 7 regions, multiple locations, multiple administrators, multiple backup plans. When famine came, he had backup upon backup upon backup. One region failed, 6 remained. Traditional Jewish families teach their children never depend on one job, one client, one market. You have the main business, but also consulting on the side, real estate that generates passive income, stocks that compound, maybe a side business, something scalable, something that doesn't require your daily presence. Investments in startups where one success pays for 10 failures. Royalties from something you created. A book, a course, intellectual property that earns while you sleep. Because the man with one source of income is a slave. One recession, one industry disruption, one bad boss, and he's finished. The man with 7 is a king. One stream dries up, he barely notices. The Talmud in Bava Metzia teaches, divide your wealth in 3, 1/3 in businesses, 1/3 in land, 1/3 in liquid assets. This is 3,000-year-old asset allocation strategy. Business generates growth. Land provides stability and inflation protection. Liquid assets give you flexibility for opportunities. Modern portfolio theory discovered this in the 1950s. The Talmud encoded it before the Common Era. And the families that followed this, they survived every economic collapse, every war, every upheaval. Because when one asset class crashed, 2 remained strong. Law number 6. Automate your discipline before emotion destroys you. There's a concept called maser, tithe, 10% mandatory. In traditional Jewish practice, you give 10% to charity before spending on yourself. It's not optional. It's not if you feel generous. It's automatic. But wise rabbis inverted this for wealth building. Before spending 1 cent, 10% goes directly to investment. Automatically. Set it up once. Never think about it again. It's not if there's anything left over at the end of the month, because there's never anything left over. Expenses expand to consume available resources. That's Parkinson's law. It's before anything else. Before rent, before food, before entertainment. First 10% to your future self, because the human mind is weak. Today you're motivated. You watch this video, you're inspired, you're going to change everything. Tomorrow, you're tired. You had a hard day. You deserve to relax. Next week, you forgot why you were even motivated. Automation removes weakness. It removes the need for willpower. It removes the daily decision. It makes wealth building unconscious. Configure your account like this. Salary enters, 10% goes automatically to index fund, 10% to emergency reserve, 10% to skill development fund. The rest is yours to live. You never see that first 30%. It vanishes before you can spend it. In 20 years, while others age poor complaining about lack of opportunities, posting on social media about how the system is rigged, you'll have 3 unbreakable pillars. Compound interest working silently. Skills that make you increasingly valuable. Security that lets you take smart risks because you have a foundation. The fool waits for motivation. The wise man builds systems that function without him. Motivation is temporary. Systems are permanent. You've already mastered invisibility. You move money with discipline. Now, the most dangerous layer. Protection and multiplication through structure. The fool guards coins in his pocket. The wise man builds legal fortresses around empires. Law number 7. Protect your empire with structures that nobody can touch. In the 16th century, when European kings confiscated Jewish properties, something strange happened. They never managed to get everything. Kings would storm in with soldiers, seize the obvious assets, the house, the shop, the visible accounts, and then nothing else. Where was the rest? How did these families disappear into exile and reappear wealthy in new countries? Because Jews learned to use trusts, partnerships, holdings, complex structures where ownership was distributed among multiple entities across multiple jurisdictions. Confiscate the house. Okay, but it's in the name of a family trust that technically owns nothing else. Confiscate the business? It's divided among 5 LLCs, each owning just a piece, none valuable alone. Freeze the account? There are 7 others in different countries under different structures. By the time authorities figured out the structure, the family was gone and the assets were moved. Today, every property you buy should be in a separate LLC. Why? Because if someone sues you over one property, they can only touch that LLC. Your other 16 properties? Untouchable. They're in different legal entities. Every business you start should have legal structure from day one. Not next year when you're bigger. Day one. Because lawsuits don't wait until you're ready. Disasters don't check if you're protected. Not because you expect to be sued. Not because you're paranoid. But because you assume betrayal is the rule of nature and you prepare before the storm. Build the wall before the enemy appears. The Talmud teaches this. Noah built the ark before the rain. Joseph stored grain before the famine. The wise prepared during peace for the inevitable war. Talk to a lawyer. Create LLCs. Separate personal assets from business assets. Use trusts for estate planning so your children inherit without losing half to taxes. Rockefellers do this. Waltons do this. Jewish families have been doing this for 500 years, and this is why their wealth survives when others doesn't. Law number 8. Give generously, but always anonymously. There's a concept that Maimonides codified, the 8 levels of tzedakah, charity. The lowest level? Giving reluctantly when asked. The highest? Giving without the receiver knowing who gave, and without you knowing who received. Complete anonymity. Why is this wealth strategy? Because anonymous generosity builds 2 invisible things, universal karma and moral authority that nobody can question. Jewish families built hospitals, libraries, universities, all anonymously. Wings of buildings with no names. Scholarships from unnamed benefactors. Entire institutions funded by people who demanded zero recognition. Years later, when they needed favors, doors opened. Not because they asked, not because they demanded return, but because the universe registers, because communities remember, because moral authority accumulated in silence becomes political and economic power later. When you help someone, don't post, don't tell, don't even mention it to your spouse. Let the act die in silence, because public generosity is marketing, private generosity is power. Public generosity says, "Look how good I am." Private generosity says, "I don't need your validation." One is weakness disguised as virtue. The other is strength disguised as nothing. The Talmud teaches, anyone who gives tzedakah will never lack resources. Not because of magic, but because generosity builds networks, reputation, trust, reciprocity, all invisible, all compound over decades. Law number 9. Reduce your circle until only those who guard your silence remain. There's a principle in the Talmud. Don't share your plans with fools. It seems obvious, but 90% of people fail at this. How many empires were destroyed by an envious friend who told the competitor? How many fortunes disappeared because someone talked too much at the bar? How many ventures failed because a trusted partner revealed the strategy to the wrong person? The Rothschild family had a golden rule. Only Rothschild blood knew the real numbers. Not partners, not advisors, not wives from outside the family. Only the 5 brothers. They communicated across Europe in code. They had secret signals. They trusted absolutely nobody outside the inner circle. That's why, when Napoleonic Wars destroyed European fortunes, when aristocrats lost everything, when entire nations went bankrupt, the Rothschilds came out wealthier. Nobody knew their positions, so nobody could sabotage them. Nobody knew their strategies, so nobody could front-run them. Nobody knew their weaknesses, so nobody could exploit them. Cut 80% of your social circle. It's not cruelty, it's strategy. Keep only those who never ask how much you earn, never gossip about others' business, never talk about their own plans until they're done, build in silence like you, keep secrets like tombstones, because every noisy person in your circle is an open door to destruction. Every loud friend is a potential enemy. Every gossip is a spy who just doesn't know they're working for your competitors. The wise man walks alone but is never lonely. He is protected. He has 3 real friends who would die before betraying him. That's worth more than 300 acquaintances who smile while plotting. You made it this far. That means something, because most people would have turned off at minute 3. They'd return to empty motivation videos, gurus promising quick wealth through crypto, through courses, through some secret everyone else missed. But you stayed, because you recognized truth when you heard it. And the truth is this: the richest men in history weren't those who shouted. They were those who whispered. They weren't those who showed. They were those who hid. They weren't those who appeared. They were those who disappeared. There's a paradox at the heart of these 9 laws. You noticed it? The law tells you be invisible, but you're watching a public video about this. How does this work? How am I not violating my own principle? Simple. Knowledge isn't power. Execution is. 100,000 people will watch this. 90,000 will forget in 3 days. 9,000 will save it, but never apply. And 1,000, only 1% will implement law number 1 tomorrow. That 1% will silently begin to live below their means starting immediately. We'll stop posting achievements. We'll automate investments this week. We'll research LLC formation tomorrow. We'll reduce social circle ruthlessly. And in 10 years, while the 99,000 are still watching motivation videos, still hoping for the big break, still waiting for someone to save them, that 1,000 will be sitting on fortunes that nobody knows exist. Fortunes are built in silence. Legacies are left without names. So what do you do now? Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Step 1. Take your phone. Delete 3 posts about financial achievements. Delete the promotion announcement. Delete the new car photo. Delete the vacation humble brag. Now. Step 2. Open your banking app. Configure automatic transfer of 10% to index fund. If you don't know which fund, start with S&P 500 index. Set it up so it happens every paycheck before you see the money. Today. Step 3. Write a list of 10 people in your social circle. Circle 5 who talk too much, ask too many questions, gossip, or just give you bad energy. Begin gentle distance. Stop sharing. Stop responding immediately. Let them drift away. Step 4. Search how to open an LLC in your region. Different countries, different rules. But every developed nation has some form of liability protection. Schedule consultation with business attorney this week. Yes, it costs money. That investment protects everything else. Step 5. Commit yourself. For the next 90 days, you won't reveal how much you earn, how much you have, or what you're building. To nobody. Not parents, not siblings, not best friends. When they ask, smile, and deflect. These 5 actions take maybe 90 minutes total, one evening, but they separate you from the 99% forever. Because most people will never do even step 1. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that rabbis quote quietly, "Better is the end of a matter than its beginning." This means, noise is at the beginning. When people start businesses, they announce. When they make first dollar, they celebrate publicly. But profit? Profit is in the final silence. When your fortune is complete, when your 7 income streams are flowing like rivers, when your legal structures are unshakable fortresses, when your discipline is automated into systems that run without you, nobody will know how it happened. They'll just see an ordinary man driving an ordinary car, living in an ordinary house, wearing ordinary clothes. And they'll think, nice guy, probably doing okay, good for him. They'll have no idea you control millions. No idea you could retire today and your grandchildren would never work. No idea you've won a game they don't even know exists. And that, my friend, that is absolute victory. Not the victory that comes with applause. The victory that comes with silence. Not the victory that everyone sees. The victory that nobody suspects. That's the victory that lasts. That's the victory that transfers across generations. That's the victory that survives persecution, exile, economic collapse, and time itself. Now go. Close this video. Don't comment about how inspired you feel. Don't share it explaining what you learned. Just go, implement, move in silence. And remember, fortune whispers to the quiet. Hashem whispers to the silent. The universe rewards those who understand that true power never announces itself. It simply exists, growing, compounding, invisible, eternal. You now have the 9 laws. What you do with them determines whether you join the 1% who build invisible empires, or the 99% who spend their lives wondering why success always seems to find others, but never them. The difference isn't intelligence. It's not luck, it's not privilege. It's execution in silence, that's the only difference. Now you know. What happens next is entirely up to you.